Paris only in those fraught final few minutes Friday, as the Parc des Princes bayed and howled for blood, as France chased and charged and clawed for an opening, did the United States betray even the slightest flicker of nervousness. Jill Ellis, the American coach, crept to the very edge of the sideline to berate Lindsey Horan for abandoning a defensive post to join a counterattack. Tobin Heath, her legs heavy with exhaustion, held the ball in the corner, holding off two French defenders, hungrily snapping at her heels, trying to while away a few precious seconds. A few moments later, Heath had the ball at her feet again, not far from the halfway line. She lifted her head, looking for Alex Morgan, for an outlet, for relief. She could not see her, could not find the angle, so instead she punted the ball forward, as far from her goal, as she could muster. On the touchline, Ellis tapped at her wrist. The United States was leading, 2-1, its place in the World Cup semifinals beckoning, and France was surging. Read more about how Megan Rapinoe and the US beat France. Wendy Renard had given the hosts hope, cutting the deficit. Amel Majri might have won a penalty a few days ago, she would have won a penalty to eliminate it entirely, to take the game to extra time. For Ellis and her players, each second must have felt a lifetime. She wanted to know how much more of this she would have to endure, before it was over, before she could breathe. It is hard to overestimate the confidence of this United States team, the self-belief it has nurtured, its utter, all-conquering conviction. It stretches way beyond that fabulous line from Ollie Krieger, speaking after the 3-0 victory over Chile in this stadium a couple of weeks ago, that the United States could call on not just the best team in the world, but the second best, too. It was more than a sound bite. It is closer, really, to a philosophy, there in the reaction to the criticism the team received after running up the score and doing so gleefully against Thailand in its first game in the tournament, there in Ellis's comfort with changing almost her entire team for the match that followed, and in her occasionally bemusing team selections. It was there 6 months ago, when Megan Rapinoe was asked whether she would visit the White House, not just in the answer, the one that made it all the way to the president, but in the acceptance of the question, the understanding that yes, that is a matter Rapinoe is going to need to have a position on. It was there, again, when Krieger weighed in this week to say that she, too, would be turning down an invitation. And it is there in the way this team uses its fame, its primacy, its platform to promote the causes that energize it, from LGBTQ rights to equal pay for equal work. A squad that lacks a sense of self does not sue its own federation on the eve of a tournament. This is not a team afraid of its own power, a team unwilling to speak its mind, a team unsure of its place or its role. Exactly the opposite, in fact. What characterizes this incarnation of the United States is a coolness that folds easily into ruthlessness. Jurgen Klopp, the Liverpool manager, coined a phrase for his team, winners of this season's Champions League, mentality monsters, a side that could not countenance the idea of being beaten. It fits the United States like a glove. The potential matchup of France and the US in the quarterfinals was spotted by most as soon as the draw was made late last year, the host against the holder, the two favorites for the tournament, the two best teams in the world. As soon as the game was confirmed, Rapinoe had said she hoped it would be a circus. She said she wanted it to be something else, too, a profanity-laced word intended to convey that it would be something bubbling and boiling and chaotic and sprawling, an epic that fit no easy narrative. It was all of those things. In the end, Rapinoe was granted her wish. The United States scored early, but France did not wilt, the rhythm of the game beating ever faster, its pulse racing and its blood coursing. The crowd had started out waving tricolors and stars and stripes, trading chants, trading languages. As the game wore on, as the tension grew, the noise became more fevered, more feral. Night set in, the lights blazed. But amid all of that, the United States players somehow stood apart. They were at the circus, they were enjoying the circus, but they were not part of the circus. Rapinoe's second goal illustrated it as well as anything. Her team had missed a slew of chances right at the start of the second half. The reprieves clearly inspired the French, redoubling their belief that all was not lost. Slowly, surely, the hosts started to turn the screw. Amandine Henry, France's magnificent captain, marshaled her troops. She took hold of the center and started to push the Americans back, further and further, back toward Alyssa Nayer's goal. The United States seemed to be faltering, teetering, unable to escape. Eugenie Le Sommer missed a glaring chance to draw France level. Kelly O'Hara hurled her body in the way of a shot, the impact knocked her to the ground. And then, almost without warning, Alex Morgan slipped the ball through to Heath. Her cross missed Sam Mewis, hurtling into the box, but found Rapinoe, who elegantly slid the ball home. Even under the most intense pressure France could generate, even in the cauldron the stadium had become, Rapinoe was perfectly unfazed, her calm, and that of her teammates, absolute. The celebration of that goal offered a reminder that these players are only human. There was no choreographed display, as there had been against Thailand and Chile, only raw emotion, fists pumping the air and bodies clambering on Rapinoe's back. What happened in the final few minutes emphasized that, the US is not impervious to the scale of its achievements, or the scope of its expectations. That it survived, though, speaks volumes, speaks louder. The United States did not crack. It did not make mistakes. It did what had to be done, it carried the ball to the corner, it wasted time. It tried to seek contact, to win cheap fouls, to slow the French advance, to draw the sting. And it worked. Through those seconds that felt like lifetimes, the United States held on. Only at the end, when the circus was over, did the players allow themselves a little release. O'Hara sought out Heath and picked her clean off the ground. The substitutes bench emptied, as France's players stood stock still, unable to move, their own dream over in front of their own crowd. Rapinoe and her teammates made sure to console them, to offer some words of solace. They are human, hard-nosed but not hard-hearted. France's journey ends here. The United States, unrelenting and inexorable, keeps moving forward, the circus left behind in its dust.